Okay, folks, I watched episode 8 and season 1 of The Wheel of Time is now over. So let's talk about it. This is definitely a review of episode 8, not season 1. I'll be talking about the season as a whole in the near future. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think episode 8's bad. I feel like I'm having to say that too much about these episodes. I'm of two minds on this. I can approach it pragmatically. I can look at it and say, okay, I see that they had production trouble. I see that COVID really impacted them, that it, affected the CGI, that it affected a number of things, right? I can sit here all day and I can make excuses for them and why season 2 will be stronger. And, that's the way the books go as well. They get stronger later on. And I could do all that stuff. But some things are impermeable. And a great example of that is the writing. The writing certainly did not get affected in the way that production constraints affected things. I am not going to hold it against the show. I'm not going to sit here and hold it against the show that the Trollocs didn't look quite as good as they could have. That the spinning scene where Rand was in a dream and then he was in reality, then a dream, then reality, that didn't quite come out as well on camera. If I'm doing a pragmatic view. Now, if I'm being real about it, excuses are excuses, all that shit makes the show weaker, period, point blank, the end, right? And so you just gotta detract for that. But still, even if I'm giving leeway there, the writing for this show, Amazon's gotta be pissed that they paid $8 to $10 million an episode for that. Because the story being told in the books versus the story being told in the show, almost everywhere that they deviate, they make it weaker and create trouble for themselves later on. And I'll give an easy episode 8 example of this. In episode 8, in episode 7, we were told that Rand is the Dragon Reborn, and they need a finale for the season. They need to show us what the Dragon Reborn means, and they need to accomplish the mission of, defeating the Dark One, stopping him, what they're trying to do, right? And we figure out that it's a trap whenever they go in there. We get this neat drama. Rand beats him and he flies away in the white light. He gets kind of burned apart, it looks like. So he seems to do something cool, but we have no measure of what being the Dragon Reborn means. Is he the only one that could have done that? Because on the flip side, we got these 4 or 5 ladies who are linked back here fighting this Trolloc army and lightning bolts shooting down. It's really cool looking, but we learned that 2 of them just found out that they could channel. 2 of them are random nobodies, and one of them is a lady who could channel and trained, but wasn't strong enough to be an Aes Sedai. So if the Dragon Reborn is supposed to be the strongest channeler, what the show has told us, but he's doing something that looks like, I don't know, he fought a dude? And then they're over here killing an army on their own. Weirdly, after they let all the men die. I don't really understand that. Also out in the middle of the open instead of from the walls of the city or something. There's just weird shit like that. It doesn't line up, it doesn't add up internally within the show, and it doesn't show the audience why why certain things matter. Matter of fact, we don't know why a lot of things matter. I would say the clearest depiction of what's going on came from Paddon Fane in the little monologue he had at the end of the season. And I recognize that they can't help that Matt's not there. They can't help that they have these actors in this cast and they need to build it up. So they needed to give something for Nynaeve, for Egwene, and for Perrin to do. They basically wrote Daniel Henney out of the episode, which was interesting. I'll go ahead and tell you here. This is going to be the minorest of book spoiler, but not one that you're going to mind. It's an easy example for those of you who are watching that maybe aren't book readers, who want to understand why a book reader would find this to be. In the book, it was an 8. Not perfect, but an 8 in the sequence. In the show, it's a 6. And here's why a book reader thinks that. This is technically a spoiler, but really you won't mind it, okay? In the books, when Rand accesses the power of the Eye of the World, in addition to fighting that person that he fought, he kills the Trolloc army. And then you, as a show watcher, would get an indication that, oh, the Dragon Reborn means that you're just way stronger. Okay, so he can do all that on his own. Wow. And he does it without the help of Asa Angreal, which I don't even think they explained to you guys, so you don't really know what that is. But that's just how strong the Dragon Reborn is. So, I won't say anything deeper on that because it gets into spoiler territory, but just so you know, they changed that to give their female characters something to do, and I get it, but it is straight up weaker storytelling than what is in the original story. So when a book reader sees a change and that change happens and it weakens the story compared to the one that they already had, it was gifted to them, they didn't have to do anything to it, that is frustrating. That is terribly frustrating. So that's really where my mind's at in this episode. I understand that there are constraints behind what they're doing. A lot of constraints. They've got to figure out production and actors and scheduling, etc. But if they're not up to the task of doing it well, then these aren't the people that should be doing the series. Because I look at fantastic shows. I think The Wheel of Time is one of the greatest pieces of literature in the fantasy genre. Yeah, it is a 10 out of 10 series for me as a whole. And its key strengths are the development that its characters go through, the expansive, incredible world that it's set in, and the deeply satisfying story that it tells. So if you don't lean into those strengths and take what you can from from the books when you're making your show, you're not doing it justice. And, in my mind, since it is the pinnacle of fantasy literature, the show should be the pinnacle of fantasy TV. There's no question to me that it should have the level of writing, CG, polish, etc. that Breaking Bad has, that Game of Thrones has, that Band of Brothers has. It's written by a Vietnam vet and historian who was a physics student. Like, the dude was a smart guy. He wrote a very smart story. And right now, it looks to me like it's getting the same level of polish that Lost has. Or maybe more aptly, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a good comparison. It's popcorn TV. This doesn't need to be popcorn TV. This needs to be, the comparison's there for a reason. It needs to be Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4. I don't need the, perfect looking, we made a million scale dragon like you would get from some Weta project for, Smaug and the Hobbit. Though, of course, the Game of Thrones dragons are incredibly good looking. Like, they look so real on screen. I just need it to not look like shit when we see a Trolloc in the daytime. But again, I can forgive a CG concern, especially in season 1. What I can't forgive, no, that's the wrong way to say that. Excuse me. What I am disappointed by, and I hope that they take serious consideration for season 2 to fix this, is that female channelers all look like they're having a seizure, or they're wacky waving inflatable fun man, or they are just, I don't know, it's ridiculous. Female channeling looks so stupid. Rule of cool this, guys. Rule of cool it. If a girl's going to cast a fireball, she shouldn't go. She should go, and there's a fireball. Because the fireball is cool, not the... Nobody gives a shit. This is not Avatar. And that's just not translating well at all right now. So the writing, frankly, if the writing is not better than this by season 2, this show's dead, guys. This show is going to be bad if the writing's not better by season 2. And if the acting, the actors themselves are great, but the direction that they're being given in terms of some of what they're doing and the melodrama of it, if that can't cut it out in favor of some more earnest, sincere development, and just moving away from, some of it's kind of bullshitty, right? We're in a lot of trouble. We're going to be in a lot of trouble. Okay, so that's kind of my tirade there. I have a very different take for the season as a whole. I'll talk about that a lot more later, but those things are just bugging the hell out of me because I feel like the end of this season was supposed to be epic and give these great stakes, and instead it came across as trying too hard, but not ever quite checking the box, not ever really meeting the mark. I will say, on the flip side, I like that we figured out that it was a trap, that the Eye of the World wasn't what Moiraine thought it was. I dislike that they've kind of made her character an idiot. Like, she led Rand to this thinking that it was the last battle. And the Koreathon cycle is a book that he was holding in episode 5 or 6. I think 5. The Koreathon cycle, translated from the old tongue to the modern language, is the prophecies of the dragon. They will be talking about more prophecies that Rand has to complete before he can complete his destiny as the Dragon Reborn. They have just baked in a plot hole because Moiraine thought she was leading him to his destiny at the end of things, and she's been hunting for 20 years and she explicitly knows the prophecies about the Dragon Reborn. But if she knows about them, she should know that he hasn't checked any of those other boxes yet. As a matter of fact, those prophecies are going to drive the plot into seasons 2 through 7, probably, of this show, maybe 8. So, our writers don't have to be fans of the series, but they do have to have a sense of direction. And they just clearly, this is getting Star Wars sequel trilogy treatment right now. It's there, guys. So that's really got to be worked on. This was the central conflict of the episode. I don't know what else to talk about here. You know, I thought everything with Paddan Fane was cool. I thought it was a real shame that Lan got wasted in this episode because I would have loved to have seen him fight a Myrddraal or something. The Horn of Valir, you guys don't know what that is. That's fine. Season 2, see you there. You don't have any idea what the ship thing was about or why they were attacking one little girl. And frankly, I don't either. So, see you in Season 2 on that one. The conflict with that person he was fighting at the end, that Rand was fighting, Moraine threatening to kill Rand, that kind of thing. I don't know if it was explained well. I don't know if anybody else knew what was going on there, but God, I just don't know what to say about that. If you didn't understand what was going on, I promise you that is a narrative issue with the show. Let me just put it that way. So if you're sitting there watching this and you think to yourself, I don't really know what happened, but I'm curious, but I'm confused. If you're thinking that right now, you shouldn't be confused, because they went through half the rigmarole they went through in this episode to avoid this feeling like the end of the first book, which is confusing. And so if they went through all of that and you're still confused anyhow, then they failed at what they were attempting to accomplish. Okay, I've been really hard on this episode. Let me tell you a couple of things I thought were awesome. I thought that the Paddan Fane thing I already said was awesome. I really thought the lightning strikes were awesome. I hate the way that Wynn Link and the way their channeling looks. But I do really, really enjoy the actual effects of the channeling. The lightning bolts going down through the army and killing the Trolloc army, that was really cool. And, I think there's good actors in this. I think that they have good set design, good music, good acting. The production value is fine. The writing, the editing, and probably the amount of time they have, this really, really needed another 2 hours so that everything didn't feel like it just flashed from episode to episode and point to point. Those are the problems, and those are problems that have to get fixed or we're fucked. Sorry, it just is what it is. I'm gonna give the season 1 finale a 6 out of 10. And I will say here that 6 is me thinking, okay, they've done these things differently, and I know it's going to be a different interpretation of the show, but I also know that they have to lead into this stuff. And I'm expecting that they lead into that stuff well, and that this setup is good, that the payoff for it is going to pan out. If we come back and they left these loose ends that they did in this episode, and they did this setup stuff really weird, and it just doesn't pan out at all, this episode, this doesn't make any sense to you if you haven't read the books. This episode's going to look like shit in hindsight. This is going to be like a 3 out of 10, oh God, we're starting off at season 8 of Game of Thrones level type bad. So I have a lot of hope and a lot of concerns, and that's not how I wanted to spend Christmas Eve, folks, because I got to tell you, I love the Wheel of Time. I do not want this to be bad. So, all right. I will talk to you guys next time.